Sir Keir Starmer said, the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, overnight. I mean, he's had a real come-to-Jesus moment now. He's taken a look at the polling, of course, that is now showing in the UK that if there were a general election today, the party that would get the most votes is Nigel Farage's Reform. And, of course, you saw Farage talking to Paul Murray just before. You can see the numbers there. This was taken on May the 6th, 29%. Say they would vote for Reform, which makes them the top party. The Tories, Conservatives, only 17%, and Labor, the current government, 22%. And they have more than 400 seats, Labor, it should be noted. And yes, it's a first-past-the-post system, so it is a different system to us, and it does make they have different results on the basis of where people vote. But popularly across the country, Reform is now in the box seat, and we saw that translate through in the local government elections that they had on the same weekend that we had our federal election. So Sir Keir has woken up and said, geez, we've got to do something to arrest this decline of the Labor Party. We've got to get votes back from Reform. So he's turned tough guy on immigration. Now, if he believes any of this, I have to say it's brilliant. I mean, I wish we had heard this out of the mouths of Conservative leaders around the world. He has said the stuff that other people have been afraid to say. He wants to deport more foreign criminals. Yes, good. He says that local staff should be prioritised over foreign staff. Good. He said there should be tighter rules around family so that you can't just come to the UK illegally and then get someone up the duff and then say, well, I've got kids now, I can't leave. Tighten the rules around that so you can't get away with it anymore. Because in the UK, net migration for the 12 months to June was 728,000. Under the Tories, it got as high as 900,000 a year. When you're talking about a country of 60, 70 odd million people, they are huge numbers to be inserting into the country every year. Well, Sir Keir says he'd like to get it down to as much by 2029 as 300,000 a year. That is a serious cut. Here he was talking about it last night.
So when you have an immigration system that seems almost designed to permit abuse, that encourages some businesses to bring in lower paid workers rather than invest in our young people, or simply one that is sold by politicians to the British people on an entirely false premise, then you're not championing growth, you're not championing justice, or however else people defend the status quo. You're actually contributing to the forces that are slowly pulling our country apart. So yes, I believe in this. I believe we need to reduce immigration significantly.
I mean, if only we heard these words uttered in our country. I believe we need to reduce immigration. He also warned about the fact that if you want a country to survive and be successful, you have to abide by the rule of law. And if you don't do that, there are consequences.
Now, in a diverse nation like ours, and I celebrate that, these rules become even more important. Without them, we risk becoming an island of strangers.
An island of strangers. What a brilliant line. Why has no one else said this before? He said, quote, we need to take back control of our borders. He tweeted last night, if you want to live in the UK, you should speak English. That's common sense. So we're raising English language requirements across every main immigration route. I mean, this is extraordinary stuff. This is a Labor Prime Minister, need I remind you, saying the stuff that the coalition was too afraid to say here in Australia. And to be perfectly honest, I don't care if he's only been shocked into this because of the numbers he's seen from Reform.
Oh,
it is the first time I've actually seen someone in a long time in Australia. Well, US is a different discussion. We'll get to that a little bit later. But, you know, the UK, Canada, Australia, our major allies, it's the first time in a long time I've seen someone stand up and say it as straight as this. We must take control of our borders back. We need to lower immigration. I can't believe what I'm hearing.
But anyone who believes him can't have a single firing neuron. This is the guy who came into power last year because the Conservatives had allowed almost 1 million immigrants into the country the year prior. And Brits were like, we've had enough of it. You guys are gonski. Labor gets in and just continues the same old, same old. They knew the issue that had won them the election and they changed nothing, which is why, as Caleb said, the weekend before last, we saw the Reform Party in local government elections get 30% of the vote share. They won 677 seats across the UK. Labor lost over 100, the Conservatives lost over 600, and Reform was just snapping them all up. Germany did exactly the same thing. When they saw in their state elections last year that they got an absolute thumping from the far-right AFD, all of a sudden the then Chancellor got up and said, oh, well, we're cracking down on immigration. We're going to tougher up our borders. We hear you and we are going to deliver. No one believed him, rightly so. And the German population went on to give them an absolute hiding at the federal election, which saw the AfD become the most popular party in Germany. So that's what these governments do. They watch the local elections, they watch the state elections. It, of course, is a brilliant gauge of the public rage. And then they say, oh, we better do something about this, otherwise we are cooked. I don't care what Starmer says now, he is cooked. Who's to say, because he refused to really speak to numbers. He said he wanted to get it down by the next election in 2029, but he refused to actually commit to a number. Now, as Prime Minister, he has the power to do that. He said he was ending a, quote, experiment in open borders, end quote. Who voted for that experiment, Prime Minister? Who voted for that experiment? Absolutely nobody. And yet he's carried it on just like the Conservatives did, despite knowing that's why he won.
There's a couple of things I thought when I heard his comments. The first thing I thought was, gee, the polls must be bad. And that's before I saw the poll that you showed at the top. So obviously he's reacting to the rise of Nigel Farage, as you said, Caleb. The other thing I thought when I heard his remarks was that the next time we see Keir Starmer, it will be in prison, because surely if you say immigrants should speak English, the next thing you know, you'll have a bobby on your front door arresting you for a racist tweet. In fact, Keir Starmer has been at the forefront of that sort of policing, and that's the great irony here. He's saying the very things that he himself was demonising other people for saying. You said, Caleb, an island of strangers. It's a great line. Why haven't we heard that one before? I'll tell you why. Because you'd be in fear of being arrested if you'd said that line. If Keir Starmer is serious about this, and he's a human rights lawyer before he came to power, the first thing they should do is withdraw from the European Convention on Human Rights, which we've sat here and talked about the way that asylum seekers who've been convicted of criminal offences have then used that agreement that the UK have with the European Union to find all sorts of loopholes to stay in the country. So if he's serious, there's plenty he can do. He's qualified to do it. But I think you're right, Liz. I think everyone will sit back and think, these are mere words. And, of course, Nigel Farage, that was his take on the whole thing.
Absolute bogus, as transparent as freshly cleaned glass. He says, oh, we're going to have more control of the borders. Well, that's your Prime Minister, UK, admitting he'd lost control of the borders. And, of course, we know these things don't happen by accident.